Yes. There they are, the victory horns on this early Sunday morning, following UFC 303, and they sound... I just can't get enough of this photo, by the way, but they sound for the man on the left. Alex Pereira, still the UFC light heavyweight champion after just viciously knocking out Jiri Prochazka in the second round. Seemed like the fight was very close to being over, it seemed. Final second knockdown in round one. Prochazka recovers, makes it to round two, and then round two begins, and seconds later, the fight is over. The incredible story of Alex Pereira rising up the UFC, not just light heavyweight rankings, but just all-time rankings, just continues on. What a story it is. Not to mention, the co-main event gets a last-minute change, and we'll discuss those stories and much more following the International Fight Week extravaganza. Welcome to the post-fight show, everybody. I am Mike Heck. What a crew we have. First, the man who hosted the UFC 303 watch party tonight from Mansion Meshew. He is back with us, the one and only Jed Meshew. Hi, Jed. Good to see you again. Boop.
Boop. Boop, ladies and gentlemen. It's the word of the day. It's the word of the year. It's the word of the last 3 years is boop. And it keeps on going. I'm excited to talk about Alex Pereira, guys. It's going to be fun.
It will be fun, and it's always fun to talk about Alex Pereira and everything else that happens on a UFC card with the one and only New York Rick, Eric Jackman. Preview show and post-fight show. Look at this guy.
Big. I'm going places in the world. Hello, gentlemen. It's nice to be with you and all the people watching out there. It's a pleasure. It's a joy. Alex Pereira brings me joy, and hopefully he does the same for many of you. So yeah, I'm just as excited as Jed is to talk about Alex Pereira and the rest of this card.
Well, let's get into it, Jed, because I mean, we'll talk about the co-main event and all the chaos, because that obviously deserves a lot of discussion, but the show was closed in a big way. Alex Pereira, Jiri Prochazka. There's a lot of talk about the short notice, a lot of talk about the toe injuries for Alex Pereira, a lot of talk about adjustments that could be made, Jiri having success early in the first fight, and then Pereira, as you like to say, booping him. We're wondering how this fight was going to go, if Prochazka was going to get it done. Maybe these could have been the best circumstances for it to happen. Nah, man. Alex Pereira was just on. It seemed like he made some adjustments, lands the big knockdown at the end of round one, and then that friggin' head kick in round two was just unbelievable. Your reaction to what Alex Pereira did tonight and just continues to do, man.
I mean, come on. It was awesome. Look, this won't be a pure love fest for me. I've got some takes, guys. I'm excited to infuriate people, but that comes later, because the first part of this is to celebrate Alex Pereira, because that was dope. Like, Poetan's awesome, even though, like, probably the outcome we all should have expected. It doesn't matter. It's still really cool. And Mike, you said the thing that is my biggest takeaway from this fight. We talked about it on the preview show. You, me, Eric, we sat here and we said, I don't know. I'm not really sure what old Jiri's doing here. He's talking about the spirits and how Alex needs to fight him honorably and in a pure manner, as opposed to, doing the things necessary for the rematch. Even saying outright, I didn't change a thing. We had a great game plan the first time when I got knocked out. I'm running it back. And I certainly hoped with part of me that was a lie, that Jiri was doing the thing where you lie so your opponent maybe doesn't know. He was not. He did exactly the same thing. Like, he very clearly was just being honest. I'm not changing shit. I'm going to come out here and fight this dude because I think this is the way it's going to win. And he just used the spirit creatures. And this time I've asked him not to do it. He didn't even, like Rick pointed out in the preview show, he didn't even have something to counteract the spirits. Like, I don't know what his plan was, but he came out and did the exact same thing. And Alex Pereira did not. Because, yes, he did all the good stuff. He did this exact same, I'm going to kick this lead leg out from under you. I'm going to counter you as you step in. But you also saw him land that dipping jab, because he clearly went back and watched. Here's how Jiri enters. Jiri enters with this sort of weird duck. And so he's not jabbing up at the head. He's jabbing down at Jiri's chest. And Jiri kept walking in to that jab. He made like legitimate good tactical adjustments that were actively beneficial, and Jiri did the same shit and got knocked out quicker and almost got iced in the first damn round. Like, Jiri Prochazka is my large adult son. I've called him that on many occasions. I still love him to death in the same way that I love Justin Gaethje. But like, my brother in Christ, what are you doing? you cannot do the same thing and expect different results. And credit to Alex Pereira. He could have done the same thing and didn't. Brought new tricks to the table and they all worked, and he continues to be the greatest anomaly in MMA history.
Kirk, your reaction to Alex Pereira getting it done and just how this fight looked compared to the first one, especially with all the circumstances involved.
I mean, as Jed mentioned, like, this trio discussed this fight on the pre-fight show and said, this fight's going to look exactly like the first fight with some minor differences. Maybe there's some adjustments made. Even if Jiri's going to win, it's going to look pretty similar. And it looked pretty similar, right? Like, Alex was seemingly getting to Jiri, chewing up his leg. Maybe not. Maybe, there would have been more to come of that. It wasn't exactly like, Jiri was hobbled by the end of that round. But he obviously landed that hook right at the end of the bell. And then coming into round two, the blood was in the water, and Jiri came in and got finished. So it went the way I thought it was going to go. I'm not about to sit here and pretend that like every time there's a fight, I'm calling, what it is. I did think the line was a little closer on this than I would have expected, just because of how violently the first one was finished. The fact that stylistically, this is always going to be a tough matchup for Jiri, and Alex Pereira kills people. Like, that's just what he does. He puts people out cold, and Jiri is a prime candidate for that because of sometimes how reckless he can be. Now, certainly, I don't think that was like the biggest factor here. Like, Alex just landed an absolutely beautiful head kick here. So I don't think it was a situation where I'm blaming Jiri for anything he necessarily did in the finishing sequence. But we saw, some of the holes in his game come to the forefront where he leaves himself exposed, and Alex Pereira is able to capitalize on that. So I can't say it was a shocking result, but Alex Pereira is the man, and he's a star, and the UFC has something with him that is very hard to achieve in terms of how he's willing to risk everything and put it all on the line, even though he has status. You don't often see that. When you get to the level that Alex Pereira is at, you're often trying to fight less, or you're often trying to pick your spots better. And he just seems to be a guy who doesn't care about any of that. So they're very fortunate to have him on the roster and have gotten him thanks to Israel Adesanya saying that he would have had that one moment that he beat that guy once. I mean, that changed the course of MMA history, of UFC history, of Alex Pereira and Israel Adesanya history, and we're all better for it.
Completely agree. One thing I want to correct you both on. I can't take credit for being part of the preview show. That was my bald brother, Shaheen Al-Shadi. But
right.
luckily,
Wow.
It's okay. But
it's late.
Dude, it's 3:30.
No. I say this because I had quite the journey to Atlanta. So it gave me some time to listen to some programs that I haven't had the chance to listen to, one of which was the preview show. I got to listen to the preview show. Got to be a listener.
It was a long one.
Yeah, it certainly was. And there was a portion of the drive where it came in handy, I got to tell you. But Jed, there's one thing that you brought up that I want to kind of go back to you on, because you said it wasn't exactly like the Islam Makhachev Alexander Volkanovski rematch where, there's this rivalry. They had this great war, because you were staunchly against that fight when they rebooked it. Everyone was so excited, but you were just like, this is dumb. This is really stupid. And when it comes to this, like, the circumstances weren't exactly the same, but you felt like there was, a little piece of that thought, because these two were expected to fight later on in the year. There's a rivalry, of course, the face-offs, like these iconic moments that these two guys had before they even put hands on each other. And now 2.5 week notice, here we are, and we get the fight. And you're just not sure, like, that you felt like if the fight ends the way that it did tonight, that maybe you would feel a little bit cheated on the result because we didn't get full camps and all of that. Do you feel that way in the aftermath of this? Or do you feel like, you know what, even if they fought in August or September or whenever, the same result probably would have happened?
maybe like a smidge, and that's why I said it wasn't exactly like the Volkan Islam rematch, because I do think that largely the texture of this fight is just what it is. Like Yuri's not going to be, even if Yuri came in with a better game plan and did other things that I think would have behooved him. Like he's still fundamentally a guy who it does not put a primacy on defense and doesn't protect his legs, and both of those are really bad against Alex. And I will argue just a one tiny point with Rick. Yes, the head kick happened, but like I think, at least I certainly believe, that the head kick was set up by Jiri just running his ass into a left hand right before the end of the first round, like just sort of recklessly charging in with his hands by his waist and getting jawed. Like it's just who Jiri is, and against 99% of the fighters in the world, he can kind of pull that off, but you can't do it against Botan. And so a piece of me wishes that they did a full camp. Maybe Yuri's coaches with like a full training camp of expectation could have conveyed upon him the seriousness of how he needs to change. But ultimately, if these dudes fight 100 times, this is probably going to be the outcome, just the way the styles match up. But that being said, I'd like to pitch something to you guys, because I was thinking, and you guys remember when you would play like football in the neighborhood or whatever, and you'd have an odd number of kids, and you'd just do like the one kid who could throw the ball would be the all-time quarterback? I am suggesting that we make Alex Pereira and Jiri Prochazka the all-time replacement fight. Just blatant baseline. Any fight pulls out and we need the card to be saved, just throw these two dudes in it. I don't care what else is happening in the weight class, because any reservations you and I might have, and even if Yuri's gotten knocked out 5 different times, when these two dudes make the walk and spend 5 minutes staring at each other across the cage, I don't give a shit about the rest of that. I could not be more hyped for the fight when they are just looking locked in like statues at one another. And so that's all I need. So I'm nominating now, all-time replacement fight. Just keep it. It's always there. And then we can get like 6 of these. And then that's okay, because then we really won't have been robbed of anything.
What do you think about that, New York Rick? And as a man who comes on these programs and says, I just want the best two dudes to fight each other all the time. Jiri Prochazka goes in, like wins 2 or 3 fights, and Alex Pereira just happens to still be the champion. Are you interested in round 3 here?
Yeah. So one thing, I don't know if this is regional. We used to call that designated. We used to call that designated quarterback, right? When we would play in the backyard. I don't know if that's a regional thing. I don't know, but that's what we would call it. So we'd say designated quarterback. I'm okay with Jiri versus Alex being the designated fight. Like, hey, you want to throw that on any card, anytime, anywhere? Like, perfect. I'm in. I love that. The one thing I'll say is my position has always been the 2 best, and I'm not sure if Magomed Ankalaev like belongs in that conversation above Jiri. Like, I think there's a world where maybe he does, and unfortunately that kind of like defeats my stance on it and how I've always kind of viewed it. But I'm okay if maybe Jiri and Magomed sort it out, and if Jiri proves like, yeah, I can beat everybody but Alex, then I'm cool with that. Yeah, let's just keep running back Alex and Jiri forever. Cool. Totally great by me, until Alex decides he wants to go up to heavyweight and pursue that, which I think will happen sooner rather than later. But totally, yeah, I'm in. Run it back 1,000 times.
Jed, you're nodding your head. You had takes,
I
by
just
the
think
way.
it's a great idea.
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna get to them. Like, we don't have to force this. These will come, and I don't want to poop on the fun parade. I'm going to poop on some parades, but we're having fun right now. Alex Pereira booped somebody. He did it again. It was awesome. I love Jiri to death. He is a wonderful idiot of violence, and I'd never change. Never change. You made this fight week so fun with your nonsense spirit talk. And I mean, he obviously should not have gotten interviewed post-fight, but the amount of money I would have given to have a camera on him when he gets lucid, and the first question gets asked is, so, like, do you think it was the spirits? It was so much money. I would give so much money to get Yuri's thoughts tomorrow morning on whether Alex was again cheating by invoking or summoning the ancestors, whatever the hell he said, because it was the best part of this fight week by far.
Completely agree. So now it comes to where do we go with Alex Pereira now? Because it seems like the popular choice, T-Mobile Arena was into it. Joe Rogan was certainly into it. Let's just cut the bull crap and just have Pereira go up to heavyweight and try to be the 3-division champion. He's 36 years old. He's not getting any younger. He's as hot as he's going to be. He might even get a little bit hotter. But, I mean, a lot of people say, like, strike while the iron's hot, because if Pereira goes out and fights somebody else and loses, then the smoke kind of fades away a little bit. Can probably get it back because he's freaking Alex Pereira, and nothing is impossible with this man. But you think if it's going to happen, now is probably the time. So, Jed, as a man who believes Magomed Ankalaev is long overdue for a title shot, even Dana White was asked about it at the end of his 17-hour post-fight press conference scrum about Magomed Ankalaev, and Alex expressed some sort of interest in Dana's like, yeah, sure, maybe we'll do that, which is better than, nah, don't want to watch that guy fight. So what do you think happens? Like, not, I know what you want, and you can tell people what you want personally, but what do you think actually ends up happening here?
I think they are the same thing. And I will also just say, to your point, look, it doesn't really matter. If Alex goes out and fights Magomed and loses, who gives a shit? What I'm trying to do the math here. Like 14, 15 months ago, this dude got knocked out in the knockout of the year. Look where the hell we are right now. This man got iced as hard as anyone has ever been iced. And this is where we're at. Time moves differently for him. If he goes and fights Magomed Ankalaev and loses, he could still just be like, all right, I'm done with light heavyweight now. Onward to heavy. And that would be fine. And I do think he is going to go and fight Magomed Ankalaev. And he should go and fight Magomed Ankalaev. Because here's where I'm going to poop on some parties. And I'm real sorry for you guys. I know we're all having fun. This is great. Alex Pereira, look at him. He's the greatest fighter of all time. This is so sick. Look what he's doing. He's 3-time fighter of the year. It's great. I don't want to, have fun. Everybody should have fun. MMA is supposed to be fun. AK says it all the time. Here's the thing. What Alex Pereira is doing is absolutely unquestionably unprecedented. Like, this is amazing. It is also happening at least 50%, if not more, because he's just getting the opportunity to do this, because the UFC is being like, screw it, fast track him. Like, let's go. We got to get him to fight Izzy, because if he has to fight anybody real, he might lose, and then we lose that cash grab. And they get him to fight Izzy. And it's like, okay, well, now he's up to 205. Garbage division. He beats Jan. Everything's going wrong. We like him. Let's do it. Let's see this happen. Okay, we need to throw in a fight. Here it goes. He's willing to fight Jiri on 4 days' notice or whatever. Awesome. He is taking advantage of these opportunities. This man has 3 wins at light heavyweight, 4 wins over 3 people at light heavyweight. They're great wins. They're awesome. But this talk of like, is he the second greatest light heavyweight champion of all time? No, he's very obviously not the second greatest light heavyweight of all time, because he has 4 wins in the weight class, guys. Like, I know we want to have fun. Magomed Ankalaev is the number 2 dude in the UFC's rankings, hasn't been beaten since Paul Craig pulled a miracle out of his ass that still kind of doesn't make sense, and it just keeps beating like relevant dudes. I know he had the draw with Jan, and we've talked about it a lot on various programs. Fight wasn't bad. Dana hates him, whatever. That dude deserves his day in court. You, at the bare minimum, have to give him his day in court, and then you can do the heavyweight thing. Particularly because heavyweight is a fustercluck right now. John's fighting a retired fireman, theoretically, in November. We still don't know if that's going to happen. Tom Aspinall is defending the true belt next month. Like, is he going to go up and fight for the interim heavyweight title? Are we going to sit Pereira on the shelf until God knows when John feels like fighting again? No, you just do the normal thing. I am begging this sport to get back to being reasonable, and you have him fight the best dude in the weight class who's sitting right there. And if he beats him, then we can have the conversation. I would still argue that it's wrong, but we can have the conversation at that point. And if he doesn't beat him, then he can do what he did at middleweight and be like, you know what? I don't have that long left. I don't want to chase to get back this. Screw it. I'll go up and fight whoever. I'll fight Alexander Volkov, knock his ass out, and then you can fast line me to a third title shot. This is what we do with him. I'm sorry to be the party pooper. We don't need to run him into a champ fight because we're excited.
Okay. I mean, I get your side of things. New York Rick, do you agree with Jed Meshew here? Do you feel like
Nope.
Ankalaev? Okay. True or false? Ankalaev's next fight will be against Alex Pereira.
False.
Continue.
No, that's all. What more do I need to say? Not happening. Like, just not the fight that anybody wants to see or cares about. Like, there are just better and more interesting fights for Alex Pereira and fights that fans will actually
what are
pay
they?
money for. Anybody a heavyweight? Like, name a heavyweight.
You would rather see him fight Tai Tuivasa?
Yep. Well, they're friends now, but
that's
somebody else.
That's a fucking but that's a fucking insane take.
No,
Derek Lewis.
Sure, done, sold. Book it. Let's go.
Like, you even know that that's just not going to happen, though.
Why?
We talked about this on the preview show. The UFC doesn't have active champions fight out of weight class unless it's for a belt anymore. They did it with Anderson 20 years ago.
Jon Jones, done. Good, perfect. Let's do it.
So Alex isn't fighting again until hopefully next spring?
No, he'll fight.
What do you mean? No. John has made it super clear he's fighting the older tired dude. Like, he's not fighting another motherfucker other than Stipe in November.
And then he'll fight after that. He'll get the next shot after that.
Yeah, in the spring. So Alex is sitting until the spring of next year.
Well, no, November, March, maybe. You could do it early.
March is the spring. I don't know.
I don't know. Is that when spring starts? Is that the beginning of spring? So yeah, the beginning of spring.
So
that seems crazy to me.
Well, let me ask you this, New York Rick, because you are.
Why is that crazy? By the way, like, why can't Alex Pereira fight in early next year? Why is that so crazy?
Because Alex Pereira fights all the time.
Or why couldn't he fight a non-championship heavyweight? Just fight a heavyweight.
Because the UFC doesn't do that. Literally, the last time that they did this was Anderson Silva in 2011.
Cool. So now do it.
That is, outside of being outlandishly disrespectful to Magomed Ankalaev, that seems really dumb. I just feel like people would be more interested in him fighting the next best dude in the weight class than him
who are
killing...
these people that are interested in the Magomed Ankalaev fight? Who are they? Do they exist?
Him.
Are they in the room with us?
Him. He specifically said it.
Who? Alex?
Alex specifically wants to fight the dude.
Yeah, I mean, it sounded like it. He seems very passionate about it. It sounds like Magomed's top of his list.
Let me tell you, what does Alex Pereira seem passionate about other than Chama?
Winning belts.
Does he seem that passionate?
Yeah,
he seems like, I'm just doing this because YOLO.
Quite a bit. He does that often and likes it. I think a heavyweight belt would be something he'd quite like. He'd quite fancy that.
I mean, if so, you would think he would have made a little stronger of a case for it, by your own argument.
He will. And he will fight for it.
Alex is also a guy. He's also a guy that, yes, he did get booked beautifully to get to the first Adesanya title fight. There's no doubt about it. We all knew what was happening from Jump Street. You give him Andreas Michailidis, you give him a step up, then you give him Sean Strickland. We knew exactly what they were doing, right? But along the way, he has fallen into some opportunities. He has just found a lot of luck. And he's keeping this positive juju alive. He hasn't really asked for anything. He just falls into these incredible opportunities and delivers. So, New York Rick, as a man who knows Jon Jones and supports Jon Jones and considers him the GOAT,
Certainly.
and I know you're not his manager or his handler or anything of that nature, but let's just say in 2 weeks, Dana White goes on Instagram and officially announces that Jon Jones versus Stipe is going to headline at Madison Square Garden. Sure. And let's just say 5 weeks later, it's mid-August, heading into late August into early September. We find out Stipe tears his ACL training. He's not going to be fighting. He's going to be out for a year. Does Jon Jones pivot to Alex Pereira, or does he not fight at all in November?
I think he'll fight. I mean, I don't know. I that's a hard one. I don't. John seems very, very dead set on this Stipe thing. I don't know what will happen if ultimately Stipe can't go. The last time, now this most recent time that this was called off, it was because John got hurt. So I don't know if John will say, "Okay, I'm going to give Stipe some grace this time, and we'll book it one more time." I don't know what ultimately I would do. I can answer the question. If I was Jon Jones, I would rather fight Alex Pereira than I would rather fight Tom Aspinall. I would definitely think that Alex Pereira is a better matchup for Jon Jones than Tom Aspinall. So I wouldn't be opposed if they came to me with that fight. But I don't know. It's too tough to say because of the weirdness of the fact that like nobody seemingly wants to see this Stipe fight other than John, the UFC, and Stipe.
Yeah. And it's a bigger fight than Stipe. It just
certainly.
Certainly.
I think that's the only way that Alex doesn't fight Magomed at this point, honestly. If that happens, I 100% believe they would book it. If Stipe pulls out, I think John would take it. Alex would step in. They would do that.
Does he hop over Tom? Like, does he become the guy before Tom?
Yes. John has already functionally anointed him over Tom. John is never going to fight Tom.
That.
Like, he's just never going to fight Tom. And I'm on board with that. Everybody else needs to catch up. But he's never going to fight Tom. But if Stipe pulls out, the UFC would be like, Alex, you want to do it? And he'd be like, sure. And I think John would accept that fight.
It feels like a really good style matchup for John. It feels like a good opportunity for John there to really take advantage of Alex's hype and in a matchup where if the wrestling is as good as we believe it to be for Jon Jones, like that would be very good for him. So
look, it's A+ prize fighting. This man loves nothing more than beating up middleweights and getting lauded for it. And he would have an opportunity to do so again and still not fight Tom. Like, why do you think he specifically was tweeting Alex Pereira is a more interesting fight than Tom Aspinall to me?
Okay,
I get it. More money, easier fight. That's smart. That's good business, baby.
I don't want to backtrack too much and maybe spend too much time on something that I tried to outright dismiss, but like we've seen people go without getting a title shot longer than Magomed Ankalaev. Like, I don't know why why is it that you feel so strongly that Magomed like will get this opportunity? No doubt. Like, why are you so set on that? I just don't believe that. We've seen guys get past
because I do not
times.
believe Alex Pereira is going to sit out until the spring. And
but he could just fight anybody else.
No, the only light heavyweight that makes sense for him to fight is Magomed Ankalaev. He has specifically called for the bout previously, is still open to the bout today. It is just, look, it's not exciting business in the way that the Anthony Smith grudge match would have been, but this is just how the sport plays. Like, this is how actual sport works. And in the absence of, if there was another person clamoring for it, I could absolutely believe Magomed gets passed over. I don't think the UFC is trying to do him any favors, but there isn't. Like, who?
I think
there's not another
viable
guy.
Option. I think DDP is a viable option. I think
Izzy is perhaps a viable option if he beats DDP, which I am not certain that he is going to do. DDP has to do more at middleweight before they do this bullshit. I'll lose my middling adult son. I love DDP like a child. I'll lose my mind if they let this man go up and we're just like, what the hell is happening at this point in time? So he's just gonna fight before the end of the year. And when he does, this is just A plus B equals C. Not every fight has to be the thing that makes us the happiest and most excited in the world, because it's also a good fucking fight. Like, I genuinely believe, and maybe this isn't conscious on your part, Rick, and maybe you're not part of the group. I truly believe that the people who are like, don't really care about Ankalaev, and a big part of that is, this is too much fun, and I don't want to see him wrestle Alex for 5 rounds. And that could happen. Alex could also he could beat him. I think he has a really good shot at beating him, because we saw Ankalaev deal with low kicks really poorly against Jan Blachowicz. Let me tell you who's better at that. Alex is better at that. Alex's takedown defense keeps getting better, guys. Like, he has a very good chance to win that fight. And if he does, then he's at least has an argument that he's cleaned out the weight class. I would still say he hasn't. But like, this is just how business is supposed to be done. And in the absence of a clear alternative, I think that I am really, really confident this is going to happen, barring a Stipe injury or maybe Izzy, beats DDP and decides that this would be better business for him.
Would this be the co-main event in MSG? Because I'm trying to figure out where you actually put this fight.
Yes, I would assume co-main event because then, maybe you don't just because he's big enough. But if you do it as co-main event, then when inevitably the John Stipe fight dies, that can bump up. Or if the fight dies because Stipe got old, then Alex is already preparing for a fight, and you just be like, "Suck it, Magomed, get out of here."
Alex will fill in even if he's not on the card, so you don't have that part doesn't have to be as lined up. Like you just call.
I'm
Alex
just assuming that the December. We're all assuming that by some eventuality, Connor is theoretically the December headliner.
Yeah, it seems
or at least
that
I
way
am.
Well, unless they create. I know he wants to come back sooner. He's talking about others. Anyway, I don't want to get bogged down on the Connor part. I think Alex is too big to be a co-headliner at this point. Like he's somebody who's going to make you money as a main eventer. Like you have to just put a main event. It's like maybe he can be December when inevitably it's not Connor and Chandler. There you go. Like you just line that up. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't think it's, I will say for the record, I am not trying to preserve Alex Pereira's like winning ways. That is not the approach I'm taking. I just am coming at it from a more general like business and excitement standpoint, and not necessarily because I feel like, oh, we got to protect this and Magomed's going to beat him. Because to what you saw, like, yeah, I saw a pretty decent path to victory that Jan Blachowicz laid out. I don't think it's an impossibility. But I think I think Magomed's pretty good. I think it'll be a good fight if it happens. It could happen.
An awesome fight. It'd be such a good goddamn fight.
I have no problem if it happens. I'm not that interested.
Let me ask you this, Rick. If it happens and Magomed wins and Alex is just like, cool, I lost. I'm not going to try and fight him again. I'm just going to go to heavyweight. Are you any less interested in him going to heavyweight? Because I'm not. I don't give a shit.
No, but that's almost, but that's my point. Like if it's that inconsequential, if it is not like really important, then I don't really care. Why should I care? Like if he wins or loses that fight, my feeling is the same. That doesn't really do anything for me.
Oh no! If he wins that fight, that does a whole hell of a lot for me.
Why?
I think that is arguably the best win of his light heavyweight career. Is an exceptional win if he wins that fight. Like, look, I love
the next
Jiri.
move is heavyweight.
To what end are all ends? Like getting good wins and building a legacy is the whole function of the sport, other than making money. Like that is a meaningful win in the way that Max Holloway beating Justin Gaethje is a meaningful win because he's dope and that's cool. Like that seems a weird question. Again,
no, it's not a weird question because that win by Max put him into title conversation. Like that wasn't insignificant. That was very significant. Like if Alex,
I agree, that's a significant win. Well, that's what I'm saying. I agree it's a significant win. Beating Magomed is a significant win.
Because it does what? What is the end result? What is it?
It's a title defense against one of the three best dudes in the world.
Okay.
That's meaningful. I know that other people don't give a fuck about title defenses anymore, but I still do. I still think they're meaningful.
We don't.
I know, and I don't understand why. When literally every fucking champion tells you it's so hard to defend the belt, when Islam gets up there and is like, dude, fighting Poirier sucked because I'm the champion and it blows to be the champion. It's so hard to do this. You guys should listen to him like, man, title defenses kick ass. That's what I would love to see. And again, I love Jiri. Large adult son, one of my favorites. Terrible style matchup. Like him beating Magomed, which is arguably a bad style matchup, would be a really significant win in his legacy and his argument for being an all-time great light heavyweight champion or whatever. Like, it's just, this is all of the, hey, this is a new, fun, exciting thing, and we're all so excited about it. It's so shiny, and we want to have it, and we just want to do this part of it, and let's rush, and just like, dude, come on. Like, let him fight Magomed. It's fine.
Sure. It's just a pit stop.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned things that kick ass, so let's transition to Diego Lopez and Dan Ige, because those two guys kick ass. Because this was just absolute insanity. We find out with like 30 minutes left in the prelims that there's a real world where Dan Ige is going to step in for Brian Ortega on like 3 hours notice, not even, to fight Diego Lopez in the co-main event of UFC 303. And then we find out with like 15 minutes left in the broadcast on the prelims that is what is in fact happening. Ariel kind of laid it out there. There were some hints going on Twitter with Eric Nixick and Dan Ige and Diego Lopez and Lopez's manager Jason House all putting out some somewhat cryptic tweets, but we kind of figured out what was going on. And then Ariel put the report out. And then the way that the UFC actually announced this on the broadcast, I thought was absolutely brilliant, because they're like, hey, here's Diego Lopez still fighting on the card. And here, who's he going to fight? You see Dan freaking Ige pimp his ass into that building, just looking like a couple of Billy ready to go. You see both guys stepping on the scale. You see Diego Lopez weighing 161. You see Dan Ige weighing 165. Then they have Jeff Mullen do an interview with Megan O'Leary explaining how this all came together. And then the fact that the UFC was able to put together a promo video for the fight, like everything about this was absolutely incredible. Then these two guys go out and have a fight. Diego Lopez looks like a dude that's preparing for a fight at least. And then Danny Gay for a couple rounds looked tougher than a $2 steak, but looked like a guy who took a fight on 3 hours notice. And then in round 3, Danny Gay starts to turn it on and he's landing big shots and he wins the 3rd round, which is absolutely insane. And these two guys go out there and they beat the hell out of each other. And the one thing that I truly disagreed with Dana White during his post-fight press conference was, hey, I was coerced into giving 2 fight of the night bonuses. So we gave one to Cub and Andre Feely, but we didn't give one to no other fight deserved fight of the night. It was just so crazy how this all came together. So, New York Quick, let me start with you. This whole situation, unprecedented, coming together. Diego Lopez, a gangster all week with everything he had to deal with Ortega and the weight cut, the lack thereof, the rehydration, and now taking another fight, a new opponent on 3 hours notice, going out and getting a win. Your reaction to everything that happened tonight in regards to this co-main event, because it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, wasn't sure it was really going to happen just based on the fact that, you know, he didn't weigh in prior, right? Like when we've typically seen these replacements, even on fight night or whatever the case may be, on very short notice, it's often somebody who's on the card who weighed in, and then they can go, okay, we have their weight, they're filling in, the scramble's crazy, and everybody's excited. This was a dude who was on his couch at the moment he got the call, or he said he was getting a massage at the time he got the call, and fills in the co-main event of what was once a Conor McGregor card, but is now, you know, an important card in International Fight Week. It's wild. It's crazy. While it was happening, I couldn't believe it was happening. I still wasn't sure it was going to happen just based on that. Kudos to the UFC broadcast who had the commission give comment on why it was happening and the circumstances surrounding it, and have them weigh in and make sure everything's okay. I know there was a lot of concern about the medicals, and you know, I saw some reporting regarding the fact that the medicals kind of last for a certain amount of time with the specific commissions. Just shout out to Lopez and Ige. Like in a world where I feel a little bit bad because I want to really go in on Brian Ortega and call him unprofessional and all these things, but it sounds like he's just having like a rough go of it and got sick, and it's not quite as flagrant as I would hope. In order to be able to go off on him, maybe Jed will be less sympathetic to his favorite Brian Ortega. But I'm going to leave that to the side for now and just give credit and kudos to Ige and Lopez, who are just gangsters. Like everybody has the same feelings on this. We've seen 10,000 different tweets on it. We've heard Dana White's comments on it. We know how the fighters feel about it. They're gangsters. They did exactly what you would hope that fighters, you know, with that fighting spirit would do. And they delivered a great fight too. Like Danny Gay, sometimes when we have these short notice fights, you see that the guy was there to collect the check and get the props for stepping in on short notice, and then use that to springboard and leverage the next thing. Dan Ige was trying to win that fight and looked pretty damn good doing it for somebody who was just popping off the couch. And Lopez, like, he's been through the ringer this entire week from the things that were happening with Ortega and then getting the Ige opportunity. They're gangsters, and I love them for it. And I think this will kind of like become a footnote at some point, but they should be appreciated for this for a long time.
100%. Jed, we watched this fight together and like 10 feet away from each other, not even. A few hours have passed. Your reaction to everything that happened, because we may not see anything like this happen again.
I had to look this up. I can't believe they didn't get a bonus. That
They
is astonishing to me that Dana heaped praise upon them. Totally right, like rightfully. Like this was awesome. Everything Eric said, everything you said. I cannot believe they didn't be like, yeah, and these two dudes are the other fight of the night. Like, okay, what are we doing, guys? Seems freaking nuts to me. I won't go in on Brian Ortega, not because he doesn't deserve it, not because I don't want to. But I've just said my piece on Brian Ortega. I said it before he did this, Bouvale bullshit here. But, man didn't have to take the fight. That's just what's up. Like they called him 2 weeks ago. He could have just said, can't do it, guys. Sorry. Or I could do it at 155, but I can't do it at 145, as opposed to accepting it. Then literally the night before when his opponent already did make weight, be like, actually, JK 155, actually can't even do that because I got sick. And like it's just garbage. And everything I've said about him forever is right. And I hope more people get on board. But this isn't about him. This is about Dan Ige. This is about Diego Lopez. It's about them doing something like this. And it's awesome. And I wrote a note here because I wanted to remember this. There's no mechanism that currently exists, and I don't even know what the mechanism would be to memorialize and commemorate something like this, something cool as shit. That this man took a fight not on a day's notice. This isn't Ally Quinta jumping in to fight Habib on a day's notice because he was also on the card. We're talking a dude who was just at home a few miles from the arena getting a massage and like, hey, can you come scrap with the number 14 dude in the world in your weight class in the next 2.5 hours? Bet. Like that shit is so awesome. And Danny Ige is not going to be a UFC Hall of Famer. So this isn't going to get to be some like immortalized thing. And it deserves, like this moment right here deserves to go in the UFC Hall of Fame. And I don't know how, because the fight wasn't going to, like, I sat there and watched, like, I hope this becomes the greatest fight of the year. So maybe one day it can get in. And it can't. And instead, it's what Eric said. This will be a footnote. And that sucks because this shit is cool as hell. And we're never going to see it again. At the bare minimum, like at the maximum, I guess, somebody could do the same, but even that is just extremely unlikely to think of the confluence of events that got us here. And so shouts to Dan Ige. He fought his ass off, looked amazing. I got some concerns about Diego Lopez from this fight, but at the same time, and you're seeing some comments out there like, what can you take from a fight like this? Like, can you really judge Diego Lopez, who weighed in 3 times this week and then fought a different dude on 2 hours notice? That's just how this goes. It's awesome. And I hope we don't forget this. I hope we remember this in some capacity because it deserves to be lauded.
Yeah. Diego wants to fight in the Sphere. Ige wants to fight at the Sphere. Dana said, I'm down. Let's let them both fight at the Sphere. Whatever they want, we'll make it happen.
They should literally get whatever they want.
Hell yeah.
Outside of something like, hey, I want to fight for the title, next, like they should get whatever they want. Fight at the Sphere seems very reasonable.
Rick?
They're not Alex Pereira.
Rick? No. Rick, you and I, little tension. We've had our issues over the years. Not that long ago, at UFC 300, in fact, we had a bit of a discrepancy, a bit of an issue where we argued on this show about this very young man, Diego Lopez. So let me extend an olive branch to you, Rick, because I, again, correctly said Diego Lopez's win. It's a terrific win. Call him from Movsar. Not going to get Movsar. Movsar would never take that fight, and the UFC has no incentive to make him take that fight. Never will happen. It's totally right. Didn't happen. I thought, hey, he beats Brian Ortega. Now he can get that. You said it'd be funny if he didn't want it. Notably, he didn't call him out, but UFC now has a big incentive to make Mavsar shut the hell up and fight that dude again. So my olive branch, Rick, let's do Mavsar. Let's do Diego Lopez too. Let's do it in the Sphere.
I like it. I saw where this was going, and I can appreciate you taking this tact as opposed to being more combative on it. I like this. I hope he fights Brian Ortega and jumps Mavsar again.
No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't hope that. No one hopes that because Brian Ortega's not going to get there.
I think Mavsar and Lopez is a great fight and should be made. Look, for all intents and purposes, like I don't think Brian Ortega will fight at featherweight again. Like, why? What would even be the point? Like, even if this fight week he was like, I was sick as a dog, I couldn't do it, and it sounds like it was some kind of version of that. Like everybody's kind of been talking about it, like a badly kept secret that he's not feeling well. Don't even try it anymore. Like just be a lightweight, which it sounds like he was already preparing for that world. So yeah, in the absence of that, like you look at the rankings, the biggest opportunity that Lopez could get at this point. I imagine he might jump up some spots in this. I don't know how far. It probably will not be to like Ortega's position in the rankings.
No.
He'll probably jump up. The highest, name that he's going to be able to reasonably climb to right now is going to be Evloev. So yeah, that booking makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, I guess like tremendous stuff from both guys, and I agree. If they want to fight at the Sphere, if that's like their big ask, they both should get it, and Diego should absolutely get that 1,000%. The one thing that stings in all of this is that he didn't fight Brian Ortega, because if he beats Brian Ortega, it ain't Mavsar's fight. Like he could have gotten Volkanovski. Like he could have got a fight like that if he went in there and starched out Ortega tonight, especially after the weight miss and going up to 55. He would have looked like a friggin' rock star tonight if he had done that. And still, he looks like a rock star coming out of this, and he's going to get a big fight next. Maybe he gets Evloev. He could get that. I can assure you, at least as of right this second, when we do on to the next one tomorrow, I'm not picking Mavsar Evloev. I'm not.
Who was Islam booked to fight when he ended up fighting Bobby Green?
Beneil Dariush, I believe.
Yeah, so this feels like a situation like that, right? Like you were supposed to get the one that was going to be the stamp. You were supposed to get the one that was going to go, I'm the guy. Look at me. I'm I can't be denied anymore. And it ended up being somebody who ultimately wasn't as highly ranked and doesn't do that for you. But I think you still get the cachet. I think you still get enough of that boost. It would have meant more, certainly, if Ortega was in that cage and he took his number. But I think Diego's got so much momentum behind him. He has so much goodwill based on this. Like, I don't know if it definitely doesn't get him to exactly where he was, but I don't think he'll fall that short. Like, I think his next
I agree.
Will put him in that conversation again, almost no matter what,
Yeah, I'll just give it away. I'm picking Josh Emmett. Like that's a good fight for him. So it's a guy who fought for a belt or an interim belt not that long ago. It's a guy that will deliver an exciting fight, and it's a guy who, can just scratch and claw and go. I mean, look at the Ilia Topuria fight. Ilia Topuria beat the brakes off him for 25 minutes, and he just kept fighting. That's the kind of opponent that opened up people's eyes more so about Ilia Topuria. I was watching what he did to Josh Emmett that night. So, maybe we do something like that. I'm cool with that. Something in that level I think is perfect. So great job by both guys. Shout out to both of them. Shout out to Roman Dolidze. Now he's going to be ranked in 2 weight classes. Shout out to Macy Chiasson. Big win. Nasty, absolutely disgusting cut over the eye of Mayra Bueno Silva. But I think the other big storyline coming out of this main card, we'll touch on this real quick and then we'll go to questions. Ian Machado Garry remains undefeated as a pro, remains undefeated in the UFC. Hard battle. We knew it would be with Michael Venom Page. Dana White scores the fight a draw. When it's all said and done, I thought Ian Garry won 29-28 pretty clearly. I thought he won the first round. I thought MVP won the second round. Round 3 is very, very close. And then I thought Ian Machado Garry, what he did in the last 2 minutes of that round was enough to win the fight. And gets the win. It's not a fight we're going to go back and watch again, but it was a fine fight, and we knew it would be a kind of a grind and just a grueling battle. So, New York Rick, biggest takeaway from Ian Machado Garry's win. Were you impressed? How much did his stock rise with this one in your eyes?
Not a lot. he did what he needed to do, but I have to be honest, like a lot of Ian Machado Garry fights, I come away saying he did what he needed to do, which is not what you with the way he talks about himself, with the company that he puts himself in, with the aspirations and the things that he says, your takeaway can't be like he did what he needed to do every single time he fights. Like that's just not how this goes. Like if you want to be that guy, if you want to be the superstar, if you want to be the one that is in the post-fight press conference or the scrum, he said he's going to enter the GOAT conversation and be alongside Jon Jones, Anderson Silva, GSP, and be in that company. Like those guys weren't coming away most of the time with fights where I go, yeah, he did what he needed to do. Like that's just not how this is going to play if you inevitably want to end up there. And so I wasn't that impressed. I thought it was a good performance. I rate MVP, right? Like I don't think he's some can. I think he's been kind of like really like drastically underserved in terms of how people think about him. He's a tricky fighter. Every time somebody's fighting MVP, you can kind of see that moment where they go, oh shit, this guy is a little bit different. And it is weird to kind of like stand and strike with him, whether they win or lose, right? Like, I'm not saying that like he frustrates people to the point where they can't fight and that's how he, dominates them. Like there's people who beat him who still face that moment and realize like, okay, this guy's a little bit different and it's hard. I'm going to give him grace on that part of it. But like when he had that choke in the first round, he should have finished that. And, he did what he needed to do, but like, I don't know. The way Ian Machado Garry talks about himself is not commensurate with the performances that he has.
What about you, Jed? How, because we knew this would be a tough stylistic matchup for him. And a lot of people were just like, if he just beats MVP, this is really impressive. So did this impress you? Were you blown away? I mean, you probably weren't blown away by Ian's performance, but how big of a jump in his stock do you think he got tonight?
He's a tough one, man, because I am impressed by the performance. You strip everything else away. I said going in, I think this is going to be a tough fight for him. I do not think he is going to win the stand-up because I've never watched a person win the striking battle against MVP. You may hate him. Some people do. Some people on our staff think he's terrible. That if the man gets the fight he wants, he wins that fight. And for this fight, that was true. Garry had, he wasn't getting his doors blown off. He was comfortably losing the striking part of it, but he did show layers to his game. Credit to him. Like I should be leaving this fight saying, hey, that was an impressive performance. Like, good on you, kid. Still 27, well-rounded skills. You took the path of least resistance. Credit. And then he goes out there and he says the dumbest shit in the world in the press, like in his post-fight presser. I snake charmed the snake charmer. No, you tackled him. You didn't hypnotize him. You tackled him and took his back at the best. You mongoosed the snake. Like, what the fuck are you talking about with that shit? You didn't win any of the striking. You won because you got a great dominant back position and you held on for 2 minutes in the end of the round to secure a win. Like, that's smart fighting. It's not what you're saying. And then I looked this up because I wanted to. Do you know where Jon Jones was in his 15th fight? Rick, Jon Jones, your boy. Do you know what he was doing in his 15th fight? I got to tell you, it wasn't scraping out, barely getting a win by MVP or winning a very controversial splitty over Jeff Neal. He was beating Shogun Hua and Quentin Jackson. You're not going to know. Like, you got to believe in yourself, and I get that. But you don't have to believe so much in yourself, or you don't have to vocalize. You could just be like, hey, man, I'm trying to do the best I can. But it is very clear to me that I still think very highly of Ian Machado Garry as a prospect. He's only 27 years old. He's a damn good fighter as he is. It is not lost on me that the moment he started facing true top-end competition, his last 3 fights, Jeff Neal, Neil Magny, MVP, tough decisions, like not impressive wins. And so
not the Magny one. He beat the hell out of Neil Magny.
Fair, but it's also Neil Magny. You know what I'm saying? Like the best 2 dudes he fought has not been convincing. And again, he's still 27. He's developing. He's going to get good. But like the rubber meets the road at some point. You can't be saying this shit and then doing the shit that you're doing. Like, at least just know when to say these statements. Because if he had blown the doors off him, if he said that after the Daniel Rodriguez fight, we could be like, hey, probably a little early to suggest this, but what an awesome performance, kid. Credit to you. Losing on some people's scorecards, so I think those people are insane, and like barely beating MVP is just like you're saying all the wrong things, all the wrong moments. And it makes the story not about, hey, this is a really, really good win for this guy, And so it's tough.
Yep. There you go. I mean, those are the big storylines. Other things obviously happen, but I want to go to the peeps since it's almost 4:30 in the morning on the East Coast. So let's bring Casey in, who's been very busy tonight, producing like an absolute savage. Good to see you again, Casey. Let's hear.
Why didn't Casey get a bonus performance of the night bonus? That's what I want. That's what I
yes,
want.
Casey should get a bonus along with Peyton Talbot, Macy Chiasson, Joe Pfeiffer, and Alex Pereira, who got performance bonuses, along with the lone fight of the night, Cubby Swanson, Andre Feely.
I owe Ian Machado Garry an apology. I'm sorry. To hand up. I just looked it up. In his 15th fight, GSP was already the champion, but was getting knocked out by Matt Serra. So, maybe he is. Maybe he is the next GSP. Hand up, my mistake, Ian.
He's not the next Jon Jones, though. The GOAT. And the pound for pound number one, according to Dana White.
Boy, is he just...
He loves that.
Dude, that is some weird shit, man. I don't get it.
Screaming at Kevin Iole.
As the number one Jon Jones stan that's ever lived, like I don't understand that one. Even that one's too far afield for me.
He is screaming at Kevin Iole, who is agreeing with him. No, he's the best. I agree, but he's the best, Kevin.
To me, the
and
weirdest part of this,
I don't even like him.
To me, the weirdest part of this is that it almost seems like nobody's like really pushing that hard against it, and he's the one continuing to bring it up. And it's on nights that like UFC 302.
There's other shit to talk about.
Like amazing performance against Dustin Poirier, and he's like, by the way, Islam's great, but you know about that Jon Jones guy, and then just screaming at people. 303. Alex Pereira steps in for Conor McGregor. Amazing performance. Legend. This guy's going to be the freaking shit. He's going to go up and fight at heavyweight. Oh, my God. By the way, Jon Jones freaking rules. Don't forget, it's Jon Jones. Like, it just feels weird to me. And you don't have to press me that hard to talk great like things about Jon Jones' fighting career. Even I find this one weird.
Yeah, at least with this one, Dana was at least asked about Jon, unlike 302, where he wasn't asked about Jon at all and just brought it up on his own, which is incredible. So,
he's
all right,
worst.
we'll take some. We'll rifle up for like I don't know. I'll say 15 minutes, but we'll probably go for 45. Who the hell knows? I lose track of this shit so quickly. Jessica, holy cow! Let him go to bed. All right.
My girl. Shout out to Jessica.
What's up,
Love
Jessica?
I miss her. All right. Super chats. First one from our wonderful friend, Akitas Jr.
Oh, boy.
Simple one.
Oh, how about that?
Shama.
Okay. Got to get one out there.
We can all get on
There you
board
go.
with that.
Shama. We can all get on board with that. We all agree with you. Spencer. Boopers. Jiri is right. He is magic. Starting to feel how I did during Prime Anderson Silva. You know something amazing is about to happen. Rank these 3 for best UFC strikers ever. Spider, Poatan, Izzy. Jed, go first.
It's a good question. I still probably go Anderson, Poatan, Izzy, but there's not really a wrong way to eat that Reese's.
I was going to say, like, it really just depends on what you're valuing, right? Like, it's not like I don't think it's a cut and dried like best striker thing. I think they all have like advantages in different areas that will work against different opposition, and then obviously you have Alex and Israel who have a rivalry. Even like it's just I don't know. It's a hard thing. I don't think it's as simple. I think it's a hard thing to rank because they're kind of like so different. Those 3 are very drastically different.
Any given day, the rankings could change, depending on where they're at in their careers and some of the performances they had. Because there were certain nights where Anderson Silva was like the best striker, like it was just poetry to watch. And there are other nights where he was horrific to watch.
Anderson Silva was so far ahead of everyone else in MMA striking that it is hard to even explain.
I
And
was
so
literally going to say,
I defer to that.
yeah, if the way you want to figure this out, which I think is the only way at the moment, is who was better relative to their competition, who was more advanced in the striking relative to their competition, it's Anderson Silva. Just even like made more clear by the fact that Israel and Alex exist at the same time, right? Like those two guys exist at the same time, so you can't go one is the best while the other exists. So yeah, you'd have to go Anderson. He was just so far ahead of everybody at that time.
Plus, also, if you're just talking about striking and not MMA striking, like Poatan certainly ups his argument as a multiple glory kickboxing champion.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, we don't make a big enough deal of the fact that 50-year-old Anderson Silva beat Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. in a boxing match. That shit is wild. That's dope as hell.
Yeah, I still go Anderson if we have to rank him. If we have to pick one, I go Anderson because like much like this comment says, when I first started watching the mixed martial arts, Anderson was the first fighter where I went, that's cheating. You can't do that. That's not, that doesn't make sense with the body. He moves his body. So I'm still gonna go Anderson, but it's a fun discussion to have.
To me, I often start spinning my wheels when I get into the conversation about best grapplers, right? Because grappling is so diverse and so varied in the same way that striking is so diverse and so varied. And then you've got jiu-jitsu, and then you've got wrestling, and then like Habib, or is it somebody like Charles who has the submission? Like I would lean toward Habib. I'm with you, Jed, but I do think that the nuance of the conversation makes it a difficult kind of thing because of how of a catch-all striking or grappling are as terms.
Yeah, of course. And like I said, if you have any of those dudes above, I'm not going to argue with you. It's fine.
Yeah. How lucky are we that we got to witness all three? It's pretty sick.
Yeah.
Fucking dope.
If there's a Mount Rushmore of MMA strikers, who's the fourth one?
Are these for sure the three? I think is a question because I don't
know. I was trying to think if that is true. They certainly have a case to be three of the four.
Yeah.
We can come back to it.
Really good question.
Yeah.
I'll think about it as we talk, and I'll see what I can come up with.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. Thank you for your question, Spencer. Now super chat from Steven.
Jed's takes are fire. Protect this man at all costs. There you go.
Magum and Ankalaev joined the bandwagon. Ooh. You just
Steven's
wait. That's going to be his best title defense.
Steven's going to super chat back in and be like,
oh, God. I cannot believe you just asked this. We literally, right before we hit record and went live, Jed was like, I'm glad we have this angle so I could show him my wonderful certs. So, what are the certs, Jed?
They're just all my degrees. I moved my desk my desk is usually on this wall, but I moved it because we were doing the watch party here, and I wanted to be able to see and be part of it. And so now you can see my diplomas, law school, college, my state bar of Georgia, whatever. It's just all that shit.
There you go.
All right.
Left lane, Pereira is him. Lopez and Ige are BMFs. Smith Cosby going 13-0 on picks again.
13-0. Nice.
Damn. Good for you. Silva and Vinicius
I did not know that.
Yeah. Our cool Piper is very angry. Yes, Piper is very angry. The Piper thing happened right when we were about to start the watch party, and we had the TV completely muted at the time. So all we saw was just Piper yelling, but we couldn't hear what he was saying. And then based on what I read in Slack, Joe Piper was trying to start a USA chant, and 6 people joined him. But I don't know. I didn't hear any of it.
Why chant? What was the reason?
Because he said we need more USA chants, I guess.
Oh, more. We don't have enough of them.
We don't have enough of them.
Okay. Yeah. That's been the issue of mixed martial arts. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
But yeah, I mean, we talked about it, Casey, on the pre-fight show. We were asked which prelim fighter had the most to lose tonight. We both agreed it was probably Joe Piper. So that was a good bounce back win. He
did not lose.
He certainly did not lose. MAB was out. That was nasty.
Mike, don't distract from the real premise of this conversation here. Anthony Smith lost, and guys, I came up smelling like roses today. We talked about it heading into this, that this could have sucked for me because I might have to watch Brian Ortega win, and I might have to watch Anthony Smith get a light heavyweight title shot. Brian Ortega didn't even fight, and now people hate his ass, and Anthony Smith lost. This is the best. I'm
And
having
Dana,
a great Saturday.
we did have one retirement, and then at the
God.
press conference, it seemed like Dana retired like 5 fighters on the card, like Arlovsky.
Did he say Arlovsky's basically cut?
We'll see. He
Yeah.
said
He
it was
said
his
it was
last fight, whatever that means.
I think he said Andre Feely. It was Andre Feely's last fight. I think
Did
he
he
said
say
that.
Oh shit!
I have to go
I missed that
back.
one.
I have to go back.
I heard
or was it
the
Cub?
Arlovsky
I
one.
thought you mentioned.
Oh no,
Cub.
Andre Arlovsky, not Andre
Yeah.
Feely. Maybe it was Cubson or Cub Swanson's. Maybe it was his last fight. I don't know. So there you
Shout
go.
out to
who's
the
last-
goat, though.
You know who's
42.
yeah.
42.
He's been getting it done.
Anthony
you
Smith
know-
looked pretty bad tonight.
You know,
Anthony Smith just looked
opponent
old.
changed, whatever. You know,
Yeah, it just
He looked
title
old.
run coming, baby.
he looked
Title run coming.
he looked bad.
He's been looked old, though.
Yeah, this is tough.
Yeah,
He can't pull the trigger anymore.
Yeah, that was the thing. That was the big takeaway from that fight. It's just Roman just did whatever he wanted and didn't really have to work hella hard to do it. And Anthony wasn't doing like anything in return. He would land the occasional jab, but when he pressed forward and like threw stuff like he was landing it, he just didn't throw anything. It was just kind of
Coaches are screaming at him to do something.
literally
He's just
screaming
not-
at him. Like, you
can't.
got to finish
If he-
this man. And he didn't. I don't know. It's tough to watch.
That's like the biggest sign of being old, other than like a clearly broken chin. If you can't pull the trigger, more like watch Prime Anderson and watch old Anderson. The difference is Anderson stopped punching people because you just lose that part of it. He's old, and that, stuff. That's where we're at.
You know who's not old though and rules? Lope Dog. Lope Dog is the shit. I love Lope Dog.
Yeah.
I have to go back and watch that one. I missed a lot of that.
Oh man,
Yeah,
Lope Dog.
he looked real
rules,
good, man.
He's
There's
so
a scary moment in the end of the second round where he threw a hard, because he was leg kicking the crap out of Ricky Simone. Like, they were nasty. And then Ricky checked one at the end of the second round, and it looked
horrible.
pretty brutal. Looked like the fight may have gotten stopped before the third round started, but they let Vinicius go, and Vinicius kept going, man. It was dude, it's tough as shit.
I can't recall seeing that before, where the commissioners and the doctor were like checking that he was able to walk. Like, it was I don't recall seeing that before, unless it was like, yeah, you got an obvious leg injury, because it wasn't like he was like, limping or stumbling around. He came out in the third and actually, admirably kind of fought with a clearly injured leg. But they were like checking that between rounds just to make sure he was okay. I can't recall seeing that off just a hard check. But shout out to Lope Dog.
Good performance. Definitely somebody to watch. He's going to be in for a big fight next.
Shout out to Ricky Simone, who I threw my weight behind and immediately started to suck ass. You and Jake Matthews should start a club of people I hate.
Steven Dawson, can we agree Peyton Talbot is a superstar in the making? I think we can all agree they definitely got something with him. What's Alex's all-time rank in fighter history? You can include storylines, excitement, build-up, and sport in your metrics. I have number 6. Let's talk about Peyton Talbot real quick. Minus 1,600 favorite, but whew.
That guy was supposed to be a test. Didn't you hear Dana?
Yeah, this is supposed to be a tough test for him. I mean, he obliterated this dude. Obliterated him. And then he called it Adrian Yanez, which I really like that call out. It was an excellent call out.
Yanez gave him the eyes on the tweet. Gave him the eyes. Might could happen. Great fight. Love to see it. Yeah, it's Kid Rocks. So does Gene Silva. Let's just be real clear. Both of them off Contender Series. Both of them among my favorite prospects from Contender Series this last season. And both of them doing big shit. But yeah, Talbot really has the look of a dude who will at least fight for a title one day.
All right.
Spencer, loving the growing Jedi Meshew New York Rick rivalry.
Has been here for years.
Yeah, I feel like we
New York versus the South, baby.
The
war of northern aggression.
I feel like Jed and I actually agree
all the
ton,
time.
like
all
way more than we disagree. It's just that we're so strongly, firmly on our corners that when we disagree, it's kind of just, that's what it is. Time to throw down.
The stubbornness we all have collectively at MMA Fighting is incredible. Because when we believe in something, we will fight to the death for it. And I am maybe the most stubborn on the site of all of us.
Do I have one? I'm super stubborn about something. I can't.
Oh yeah.
Oh
yes.
Yeah.
What,
dude? Come on.
You are.
Okay.
Oh god.
Take a look at any of your rankings, Casey. Take a look at any of your rankings. I love Sikazawa. She's terrific. Come on, bro.
Yeah. Oh, okay. We're right. Oh, okay.
He was about to launch a defense right there.
Okay, we don't want this show to go 6 hours, so we'll move on. I don't know why I brought that up. My bad.
It's all good.
It's about to be Dana White yelling at Kevin Iole.
I agree, Dana. Why are we
fourth quarter sports? Alex is officially the boogeyman now. Yeah, he's been boogeyman for a while.
We didn't answer dude's other question though. Where do you guys have Alex all time?
Oh,
I don't. I'd never do that until the career's over. It's just impossible. It's
so weird too. He's just such.
I mean, number 6 is an insane take, but like top 25, I'm open.
Yeah,
I think
20.
we.
As far as just one of a kind, but more than anything,
he's definitely one of a kind.
One of a kind. Super unique. The walkout, the stare, his fighting style, his look, the way he dresses for the way he dresses for the weigh-ins, and the way he dresses for the press conference, and it just seems so authentic. And it's a gimmick, but it's not a gimmick. It's just and he doesn't talk trash. Yet he does this whole thing.
He talks trash, but it's the right amount. He doesn't go over the top. He's not trying to do it. He's just taking the opportunities. He is 100% a one of one. Nobody has shown up to the UFC as like ready as him just to jump into title contention and just be the guy and then capitalize on those opportunities. The speed with which he's knocking off these all-time historic things is incredible. Then you think about like combat sports more broadly, and he was a 2-division champion in the premier kickboxing league at that time, and a 2-division champion in the UFC, and possibly even more. Like he's one of one in every regard.
Yeah, he's his own category. Like he's literally his own category.
I can't rank guys because like you look like I think this came up in a conversation around like Anderson Silva and others, Jed, where like we're okay for giving losses and not necessarily making that something that dings you toward the end. Whereas I think many will look at some of that and take away, right? Like Fedor, I think gets dinged unfairly in a lot of conversations. Anderson Silva gets dinged unfairly in a lot of conversations because of how the end goes. And so everybody's ranking is going to be different and all that. So
BJ.
I don't know. Let's
BJ.
BJ. Let's let the career end, and then we can kind of like sort all this out.
Yeah.
My favorite moment of Alex Pereira's post-fight presser was the shortest answer he gave, because he was asked about the Jamal Hill thing and he just did 2 syllables, and then Flatty just goes, okay. And that was it. It was so good. And that's just
Jamal
like
Hill had himself a week, boy.
Yeah, man. That is worse than Alex Pereira going off on a 10-minute tangent about Jamal Hill.
Totally.
That is so much worse for Jamal.
Totally. Just outright dismissal. For the context, it was Jamal Hill saying on Twitter basically like, great win, tremendous knockout. Our business is not done. And then they relay that to Alex, and Alex goes, okay. That's it. That's all he gave.
No, it wasn't even like that. It was like okay. Just the complete no-sell brush off of all of it. And even the way it was translated was a complete brush off. It was, that's going to sting, man. Like, that's going to sting. You just in 2 syllables, you got so much further away from a rematch with Alex Pereira in just 2 2 syllables.
I'm still watching Jamal Hill before Magomed Ankalaev.
That is it. We saw that.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I was just kidding on that one. That one wasn't serious. That one wasn't serious. That one wasn't serious.
If,
I was just
if you're doing it because you want to see him get hurt, okay. Like that's the thing, man. I said it afterwards about Jamal. Like you got to keep the same energy, dude. And this is not the same energy. This is not the pre-fight energy.
Very bad.
And it's just tough scenes. Like, do you think he's losing sleep? Because I got to tell you, I don't think he's losing sleep, man.
Yeah,
he knocked your ass out and then memed you. He don't give up.
You're right. The Jamal stuff has big, like, I'm coming for you energy. Like, it's definitely like I'm still looming, I'm coming for you. And I don't think Alex, like, even interprets it at all like that. Like, I don't think he even considers that for 1 second. Yeah, you're right. You're 100% right on that.
He has zero interest in that fight. I think of all, like, the potential, even, like, if he had, like, 15 options on the table and Jamal Hill was one of them, Jamal Hill is probably, like, the 13th or 14th at best.
See, I don't even think
they won. 90 seconds.
I don't even think it's that. Like, I think it's worse than that. I think it's actually worse than that, where like he could be option 15 or 2 and he's still unbothered. I think it's almost that. Like, I don't think it's like you're down here and I'm not even like considering you. I think it's like, yeah, you could be next and I still don't give a fuck because I'm not worried. I'm unbothered by you, which is like pretty like bad. Honestly,
it's the old trope. I think about you every day. I don't think about you at all. Okay,
madman.
Like, think about when Alex, knocked out, Hill. He did his thing, but then when he knocked out Jiri, spectacular knockout. He actually immediately checked on him before he celebrated.
He thought he killed Jiri, though.
Yeah. Well,
like,
but you know what I mean? Like,
there was there.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just, it's funny,
but it was a whole different thing. And
the vibe was,
Jamal, and Jamal talked a whole heap of stuff and called Alex an easy fight, all that, like all these things, like Alex beating Jiri. This is a direct quote from Jamal Hill. Alex beating Jiri was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. That was a direct quote. Crazy.
Look, a lot of funny shit's happened in the past couple of years. And for my money, the funniest thing still is Sean Strickland thinking the way to fight Alex Pereira was to walk at him with your hands down. Because I got to tell you, that's still hilarious. But it's Jamal Hill saying pre-fight, I'm going to outstrike this dude easily. Really creeping up in the funny part. Like, you guys don't understand. I'm going to show that there are levels to this. Is some peak funny shit, man. And I will also note, Magomed Ankalaev's talking that same shit. So if he actually does fight him and stands with him, he's going to get knocked out and it'll be also hilarious.
Yes.
All right. Couple more questions.
Bear crawl at that dude. Don't fucking strike with it, man. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Jump right. Hopefully he jumps guard on you.
Did we even talk about the boogeyman thing? He's not the boogeyman, right? He's kind of the one that, everybody's kind of trying to come after. I don't think he's like haunting anybody. It was
Champs
Izzy.
Can't be boogeyman.
Champs are boogeyman. Yeah.
Including all combats, boxing, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, I have Ali, Tyson, Foreman, GSP, Anderson, then Alex.
Oh, if you're including all combat, then they're not in it. I would not have an MMA fighter in it. So
it's just different things. Yeah. All right.
Boxing's been around 120 years. That's just a lot of time. Oh God. Oh, that was violent. Shit. I'm watching Full Metal Dojo and a dude just got stomped out.
Oh.
Okay.
Stomps rock, but that was tough. They also had wheelchair boxing, which is exactly what it sounds like earlier. So
I've seen
Full Metal Dojo, just living life.
Hey, give us a call. Hey, we talked about this on the preview show.
I love it. Spencer, I Poet's on number 23 all time. Ian probably would have lost if MP didn't give up position to the third. Has Ian lost or gained steam with his last 2 fights? We kind of touched on this already.
He still gained some, just
Yeah,
not a
you have
lot.
to. You won, so you have to gain something, but not as much as he would portray his like comparatively to what he thinks he is with those two performances.
Ultimately,
They don't match. Yeah.
there's two things happening here, right? Here's the thing, guys. Here's the thing. There's two things happening here. There's there's what Ian Garry thinks of himself and like, you know, is projecting for himself, and then there's the reality of the situation. Those two things don't mesh, but ultimately it doesn't really matter. Like what Ian Garry thinks of himself is independent of the reality of the situation. In reality, he's undefeated, winning fights, still somebody who the UFC believes is going to be somebody invests in and puts in good positions on cards, and they will continue to do that. So like ultimately he's getting toward where he says he's getting toward, and he will continue to. I just don't think he is where he believes he is, but that's really like it doesn't really matter what that part of it is. Like he's still advancing and still climbing the ladder, and the UFC still sees a lot of value in him. People pay attention.
Yep.
Mr. Heck, we talked about someone who has a lot to lose on this card, on the main card. We talked if MVP loses. Did he lose a whole lot tonight, or did he just lose?
Good question.
Look, he's not fighting for a belt. That's it. I think the door is shut on him fighting for a UFC title. He needed to win this fight in order to keep that door alive. He's 37, man. Like the UFC like is obviously brought him over. They saw some value in him. Doesn't seem like Dana hasn't really put him over all that much. Honestly,
Dana kind of stunning the draw.
I mean, yeah, but still, it's not like he put the fight over as this like classic or anything like that. Yeah. But he's going to have fights with names with people that people are going to be intrigued with. But yeah, like the whole listen, if MVP Leon UK versus UK, like it just seems so far away now. You know what I mean? This is tough. I think he needed this one, and I think. Yeah, I think that door is shut. I think that door is officially shut. Now he can still fight the Wonder Boys and maybe the Usmans of the world and such like that, but I don't want to see that fight either. But
go ahead, Jed.
I'd say it's 90% he doesn't. I still think there's a clear path for him. Like losing this really took the options away, but like. What's Gilbert Burns doing? Like it wouldn't astonish me if they just booked him versus Gilbert Burns. Oh, is he? Okay. I mean, either fights the loser of that wouldn't astonish me. And then suddenly that's still a move up for him in the rankings. Like he's still 2 wins away, like depending on who those guys are, to maybe sneaking in. So like, I don't think it is likely now, certainly, but I'm not
his best,
all
honestly,
the way willing to write it off.
His best chance right now is like Ian Garry gets booked to fight Shavkat and has to pull out, and he steps in and beats Shavkat. Like that's probably his only
like
chance.
That. Get him back in there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah. But that would be MVP facing a higher. Even he moved up in a loss.
I don't know what Kamaru Usman's doing, but like maybe Usman wants to finally win a fight, and it's like I'll fight this dude because he's popular and threw a Pokeball at a dude one time.
I don't even know if Usman's a welterweight anymore.
Like I don't know. So there's a path. Options got limited, but he's not all the way dead yet.
Yeah, I agree with Jed. Like he's too notable and he's a name and people care about him in the same way I'm talking about Ian Garry. The problem that he is facing, and it's specific to him, is it seems like he's reached the level where he can't style on guys anymore. Like even when he's doing his best, it doesn't really look that good. And so if he gets into those opportunities, like he's not going to go in there and just smoke somebody. And unfortunately, like then that kind of puts you back in the same spot. So it's a real tough thing for the style that he has, where I feel like he's reached a level of competition in the UFC where like he just can't style on people. Like it's just not going to happen. And so
And everyone
I
has a
don't know.
good chin above him.
Everyone's
Like
got a good chin.
nobody's chin above him is like old. Like Luque's is, but beating Luque doesn't move the needle much anymore.
No.
Trying to maybe he could just fight an old guy whose chin is shot, but everyone's chin's fine. It's a great
And
point, Rick.
if they have any wrestling, like what are we looking at then? Like it's just a real like this was the shot. This was the opportunity, and it's going to be tough. But if he like you laid out a scenario, if he goes out there and beats Shavkat, like he'll be back.
Yeah.
He will be back. But
I would cry.
The level that he's fighting at right now, there is no more cracking people throwing Pokeballs. Like that's just not MVP's future.
Is
Let me tell you,
is MVP versus Buckley interesting, or does that not make sense?
Sure.
That just
Sure.
seems like a good fight.
I don't hate it. Seems reasonable to me.
It would have, like, after the St. Louis win or even the AC win. That was the one I wanted. Like, Buckley should get on the mic and call for MVP on the Manchester card. Like, that was the way to go.
Yeah, I just don't see this as like a loss because he didn't get knocked out. He just got he didn't even get after the first round. It was on his back. It wasn't even a submission. It was just it wasn't even a submission attempt. It was just this weird 2 minutes. We're like, okay, and that's why I think Dana took out of it.
He's gonna have to fight Buckley's one of them. Randy Brown, that's kind of where he's gonna have to fight now. He's gonna have to fight a surging guy who is looking to move up, and it's not Magny-ish, but it's in that realm where he's gonna have to sort of defend his spot against someone that's on the come up. That's the position he's in right now.
I'm with that. I can buy that idea that it wasn't a devastating loss, but to the point I was trying to make, I don't think he gets wins anymore. Even when he gets a win, it's not a win. It's a whatever. The Holland thing, nobody was that inspired. It was kind of okay.
I actually thought it was good. It
was fine.
I got a different vibe from what I read from the general audience, but whatever. I'm just.
You know what to do?
Saying MVP versus Jack Della, and that's a terrible fight.
Oh Jesus, no.
No.
MVP has a really good chance to beat Jack Della, and you should super not make that fight happen.
Nope.
All right. Yeah. Well, since we've gone almost 90 minutes,
do MVP versus Kelvin Gastelum. How about that? New York Rick got children. He wants to go to bed. I got children too,
Yeah, but you're not with your children.
I know. I'm not right now. No.
Yeah.
I don't care about bed. I'm watching Full Metal Dojo while we do this. I'll do this forever.
You're sick, man.
Hit the music.
Oh, hey. Well, real quick. Wait. Shout out to Happy Trails to Michelle Watterson.
Yeah.
Happy Trails.
I really like that they gave her a piece. That was fun.
Yeah,
that was really good.
We didn't talk about it, was already in the card, but Happy Trails. And guys out there, girls, watch Michelle Watterson versus Jessica Penne.
Oh my God!
Just a fantastic fight. But just want to make sure people hear that. And
hell yeah!
But
good for you, Michelle.
I think that's a really important point about going back to that fight, because what's interesting about Michelle Watterson is she's really an atomweight and not a strawweight, and had this really respectable and respectable career in the UFC, and probably wasn't in that weight class. Maybe by the end, certainly she filled out more and was she looked a little gaunt as she would continue to make 115, but that's just naturally going to happen as you get older. But in her prime, she was a 105er, and that's a great fight to go back and watch, and she's awesome. Yeah, Michelle's really cool.
Yeah.
Shout out to Ray Cerullo, who's fucking sick.
With Shinsuke in the corner.
Yeah. That kid's gonna be so good, man.
How do you do
that kid's
the thing?
22 years old and awesome.
Yeah.
Japan, I don't know when it happened, but Japan got some hot shit prospects right now, and it rocks.
Wait, that was a fun fight too. They couldn't have given that a fight of the night. That was a pretty fun.
That was a great fight.
Yeah. What the hell?
Very strange.
A lot of good fighters out in Japan. Number one pound for pound woman.
Well,
there he is. He's digging his heels in.
Yes. Well, the good news for all of you, if you're like, oh man, I want more live content, as we are live right now, 5 hours and 6 minutes from right now, AK and I will be back here on this channel for a live edition on to the next one. So we'll do some matchmaking following UFC 303. Then we get a rare weekend off from UFC action, but next week, Nate Diaz versus Jorge Masvidal, part 2, and then the UFC heads to Denver for Rose Namajunas versus Tracy Cortez, the new main event for that card. So get ready for that. For Jed, for Casey, for New York Rick, I am Mike Heck. Thank you for watching. Good night, or should I say good morning, everybody.